Hi, I'm Jim Gordon, and welcome to the offices of the Richmond Sentinel. I'm back again for another of our series of segments on the people that run for office, that are in office. We're here to talk to them, and they represent your town. We've got three of them here in our office today. Glad to have all three of them here. They're back in Vancouver from Victoria. Joining us is Aman Singh. He is the MLA for Richmond Queensborough. We've got Kelly Greene, who's the MLA for Richmond Steveston, and Henry Yao from Richmond South Centre. Nice to have you all here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, what we've been doing with these segments, of course, we can talk issues all day, but we really have been trying to get behind the scenes a little bit and find out about your day, how constituents can get a hold of you, why you ran, that kind of thing. So a very kind of coffee table kind of discussion. And Kelly, I'm going to start with you. Everybody here at the table won in 2020. Talk a bit about what made you want to run, and we'll work our way around the table, starting with you.
I just really want to make a difference for people in Richmond. I live here. I've lived here just about my entire life. And so I want to raise my kids here, and I want to make sure that that the city that they're inheriting and all the kids are going to be inheriting is the best it can possibly be. I think that with the background that I've had in both advocacy and at City Council, I had some unique strengths to be able to bring to the table. And so I put my name forward, and here I am.
And we should mention, because we also want to mention some of the issues that are important to everyone here at the table, that preserving farmland, protecting the environment, that was something you were I remember when we interviewed each other last year, or 2 years ago, I should say, that was a big thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, over to you, Henry. You have also, like Kelly, you were elected in 2020, Richmond South Centre. What inspired you to want to represent your riding?
Well, I think 2014, I sort of started getting involved in politics. And I think one thing, as you said, in politics, one thing we learned very quickly is our society actually have a lot of challenges, difficulties, we often don't see unless you actually get involved and get deeper into it. You know, we fought against NIMBY when it comes to temporary modular housing. We dealt with the homelessness. We look at different non-profit sectors struggling to carry through a difficult, challenging time. So it just sort of made me realize there's a lot of great work our community advocates are doing, but a real change has to come from the actual government side. And being inspired by my colleague Greene and Aman Singh, a lot of this great work they're putting together, and we felt it's in time for us to really to support government and support direction, who can actually go in, have a different platform, and really make positive change that's progressive and supportive of our community.
And one of the things, as we mentioned with Kelly, you're very proud of the work you've done with the Youth Services Agency, encouraging young adults to build skills and futures. Obviously, that's a big issue with you as you continue on as an MLA.
I think absolutely. I think one of the more important thing for us, especially for me personally, is the more we work with younger generation, the more we realize the future is so important for us. That we need to start investing now. We need to start looking after issues right now. We cannot let things get neglected and falling behind. A lot of young people, when they have I'll be honest with you, I work with many talented young men and women who are far smarter than I am, and still struggle finding a career.
Right.
And I think it's important for us to really have a healthy, strong economy that focuses on investing in British Columbians. So I'm just so glad to be joining with my colleagues, really finding a way to support our younger generation, our future generation. And of course, as you probably know, I now have a new young daughter for a few months. We also want making sure she has a bright future in Richmond.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think everybody at the table has to have kids, other than me, I think, is the situation. Okay. Aman Singh, you are Richmond Queensborough, again, like everybody at the table, elected in 2020. A bit about what inspired you and what continues to do so as an MLA.
Yeah, very similar, my parents instilled in me that public service was a really, really big part of us. And it's not only part of who I am, it's part of my spiritual faith as well. And just the way that I grew up, I've been an activist all my life, since a very, very young age. And I translated that into activism and advocacy as a lawyer. And this is sort of a natural progression of that. I also have a 2.5-year-old daughter as well. And I want to make sure that British Columbia is a British Columbia that's welcoming for everybody, right? That's affordable for everybody, and that has a climate where we can actually live in, right? That's one of the big issues as well that we're facing right now. And that young people, you hear it time and again. When we go and speak at high schools, that's the first thing that comes up is climate change and the environment and the stress that young people have around that. And we want to make sure that we leave a British Columbia that's not only vibrant, but it's livable and affordable for the next generation.
That's one thing that I read about, and you obviously see it on the front lines, is when you go to the high schools, the kids, I call them, but they're intelligent, but they're also, probably compared to when I was a kid in the 80s, they're certainly more concerned about what's being left for them. Kelly, you see that obviously, as I mentioned, with your interest in advocacy for the environment. What else do the kids look for? I mean, is it more difficult to engage them? Because I find that when I talk to people that, you know, voting is always down lower than you'd want it to be, of course, is that how do you inspire these kids? Is it certain issues like the environment? You take the first question there.
I think that, you know, talking to young people about the things that matter to them, and then connecting the dots to where do those decisions and pressure points come from? And it might be municipal government, it might be provincial government, it might be federal government, but connecting the decisions that government makes to the issues that matter to them, and really explaining that voting is how you get a say in what happens next. And if you don't vote, then the person that does vote gets to make that call, right? And so, you know, not voting isn't the best option, and that voting is really the best way to be able to express yourself and make a contribution towards what happens next.
And one of the other things that I hear from people, and we talked about this before we went on, is about the average citizen who may not know how to reach out to their MLA. Sometimes they don't even know who their MLA is. As you said, Jennifer, they're not voting. They may not be engaged. Henry, talk about some of the work that you do to make sure that people know where to find you in your riding.
Thank you so much for that question. I think one of the challenge we have in Richmond, we have a lot of cultural barriers, language barriers, actually limiting a lot of interaction between elected officials with our regular constituents. What we're trying to do, first of all, definitely do a great job in our casework. If any individual come to our office, unfortunately, I'm still setting up my office. We do a lot through email or telephone. Of course, with pandemic, it makes it easy for us to do a lot of things virtually. But make sure we do a really great job. I know one of the funny things that happened to me regularly is my staff will send me a list of ministries that I need physically walking there and knock, saying, why aren't you getting my reply to my staff yet? And get them to actually get things moving faster so we can actually get an answer for constituents. I think that kind of, I don't use the term customer service, but good services help spread the word so people are aware of what's happening. Of course, we're looking at social media. We rely upon our media friends to help share the information too. That's the reason why, you know, we get involved in advertisement to ensure they know our office existence. Right. But I think another thing we definitely want to emphasize too is we go to a lot of community events, connect with people at the ground level to really understand what kind of challenge they're facing. As a person who really want to stay connected with my constituents, it's also really important for us to continue to spend more time in constituency, from going to small businesses to going to local schools, to actually walking on local parks, to really connect with our fellow citizens, to really hear their saying and let them know they do have an MLA. They will try our best through proper channel, helping them address the concern they have.
I couldn't agree more, and I should also say my Cracker Jack staff just said you'd called her Jennifer, not Kelly. My apologies. That allows you to call me John or Rick at least once before the interview is over.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's interesting, the common thread here too is that everybody's got families. Aman, I'll ask you this question. How are you balancing being in Victoria, being here, you've got children? How does that play out? And
it's challenging.
Is it overwhelming for all of you? And everyone can jump in here, starting with you. Is it overwhelming at first?
You know, the pandemic made it less overwhelming because we weren't physically in Victoria, right? We were doing everything virtually. But now we're back. It is challenging, absolutely challenging. So you really have to be committed to this job to want to do it, right? And I think all three of us are very committed to that change, to making sure that we have a British Columbia that's prosperous for everybody, right? Because going away from your family at that time, it is challenging, right? Especially when you have a young, you know, Henry and I, you know, a year and a bit and 2.5 years. Yeah. Every week, my child changes, right? And every week that I'm away from her, I miss that, and so it is quite challenging. But you know, it's a challenge that we've all taken on.
Kelly, you want to jump in? Your kids are a little older.
They're a little older, 7, 10, and 12. It's not elegant. So I would probably disabuse anybody of the notion that arranging for childcare and you know, your partner's off-site at a meeting and somebody needs something and it you know, you put together a a mosaic kind of thing and make it work. But there are many days where it's not elegant. And also, I think that for every single person that is in elected office, their family is making a lot of sacrifices, because not only am I missing my family, but my family isn't having the support that they would enjoy if I was home when I'm in Victoria. And so I would like to just really honor the support that our families give
Absolutely.
us, because it is an extraordinary undertaking.
And the village that comes around them as well,
Yeah.
because we can't do it. Our families are not able to do it alone. So all of our friends and family that we depend on.
Henry, you want to say a few words on that?
Yeah, echoing both of my colleagues, I think one of the most challenging part is, I will be honest here, is there are times I doubt whether being an MLA is the right thing for me to be. Because when you come back home, spending a whole week in Victoria, being working hard, you're doing everything you can. But when your child, come and hold you and wouldn't let you go, it's very heartbreaking. I will be honest, it's very heartbreaking. And we experience on a weekly basis. I'll be honest with you. Every week we come back, you're dealing with a kid. It's sad. Like Sunday afternoon before I have to take off, my wife have to find a way with my parents to distract her, hide her, block her, so that way I can quickly snack out with all my baggages out into the car. And unfortunately, after like half an hour leave, you'll just hear my wife talk about how she's crying, looking for a family member, looking for a dad. And I'm not saying I'm special in the family. I promise you, my wife's a more special one than I am. But it is still a huge sacrifice for both the family and, of course, for my colleagues. I would say all my colleagues are making a huge sacrifice to be here. And I would say like childcare, family care, it can be a huge barrier for elected officials. And I think if we want our democracy to be properly supported, we do need to continue to find different ways of solution to ensure good people can represent. And we need people who are actually in those difficult situations, like having families, having challenging circumstances, so they know how to walk those difficult walk and bring that perspective in. So that's just my view.
I would really like to talk more about the diversity of the kinds of people that are elected right now. Even if you back it up 15 or 20 years and look at the variety of life experiences of the people elected, and look at the variety of life experiences of people that are elected now, you have people in government that understand situations that maybe the people that were elected 20 years ago on average didn't understand. Like, we really understand childcare.
Yeah.
We absolutely understand elder care. We're starting to be in that sandwich. We're understanding a lot of the different issues that face people on a day-to-day basis, and working towards making those better. And so I think that that's a real strength with the kinds of diverse people that we have in our caucus.
And that's why our policies on senior care and childcare are so important.
Yeah.
Because it'll allow more people that have that diversity of experience and that have the actual experience that everyday people have to be there in Victoria. You see that reflected right now, somewhat, but it can improve. And it'll improve when you have better childcare, when you have better senior care, when you have those things that are priorities and not afterthoughts.
Oh, fair point. Talking with Aman Singh, Kelly Greene, and Henry Yao here on this Richmond Sentinel video segment. Questions, comments, please make sure that you submit them. We promise we'll look at all of them. Continuing more discussion, let's talk about your ridings. When we talked, and I believe I did interview all of you in 2020, we talked about issues for Richmond, but also the riding. Kelly, I'll start with you. What are the most important things you find that need attention in this city, and specifically your riding?
I think that the hospital replacement project is a top of mind thing for Richmond. I think healthcare has really been a lot of what we've been talking about over the last few years, and I think that the natural conclusion, and it's been borne out by what we've done, is that we need to have that hospital tower replaced, and so that's going forward. The initial plan was reviewed, and we actually came to the conclusion it wasn't big enough. Yeah. So bumping up the size of that and getting that forward, I think, is really great. And then also Steveston interchange.
Right.
The Steveston interchange is a huge crunch point for people in my riding trying to get within Richmond because you kind of get boxed in.
Yeah.
So that going forward is going to be a huge success. And honestly, everybody in my riding is talking about environment on almost every conversation. We're in a very low-lying area in the world, and people really know that we have to be serious about mitigating climate change if we're going to protect our city.
Fair enough. Henry?
Richmond South End is actually rather, I don't want to use the term generic, but it's we share very similar concern with the rest of Richmond. My colleague mentioned earlier, we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about environment. However, I think one of the most common concerns I often hear is actually affordability. People are talking about housing, people are talking about food prices, because I think we're all made up of small family which is trying to make a living, taking care of our future generation, really raise them up in a healthy and strong environment. And of course, anti-racism is a huge issue too, because we do have a very diverse riding Richmond South Centre. We have a lot of high rises, we have a lot of community interactions, but yet sometimes it does feel like people often don't know each other, even though we share a very small geographical and very dense area too. And therefore, when a lot of conversations we have with a lot of Richmond South Centre constituents, they often connect together around affordability and how to take care of the future generation. And of course, we talk about environment, anti-racism issue as well. So overall, we really want to find a way to help our family to live a more affordable, accessible, and livable environment that they can raise their family in.
Well,
Ditto. I mean, I think it's the same. Really, in the pandemic, healthcare and services that people depend on really became the foremost issue, right? And then falling on that, affordability in housing. We're in a housing crisis. We're in an affordability crisis. Our government has tried to address that over the last few years. Dealing with childcare. We have reducing it by 50%, fees by 50% by the end of 2022. We're well into our 10-year, $10 a day childcare plan. Getting rid of tolls, getting rid of MSP, and all the other things that we've done to make save families thousands of dollars, right? Those have helped. There's a lot more to do, but I think those are sort of the main issues, right? Is healthcare and services that people depend on and need, and then affordability, housing and regular affordability. And with Richmond Queensborough, it's a majority of the riding is farmland, so food security is something as well that we're going to see, especially with the war in Ukraine. With the Russian invasion, we will see an impact on that as well. And I think that's something we have to look forward to and really engage in as well.
Perfect lead into, as I get ready to wrap this up, you mentioned Ukraine, we go from municipal to international. Your city, what you guys do working provincially, federally, can you talk about any updates on, obviously we're hoping that there'll be kind of an arrival of refugees from Ukraine. Are there any updates? Anybody want to jump in on that? Kelly?
We're standing by to support the federal government in finding places for Ukrainians to come and be safe, and we're waiting on the arrival of those people from Ukraine. And I know that there is so much support in the community as well to help them feel safe and settled in their community of choice. So. Standing by.
Yeah, it really is sort of in the purview of the federal government, and the provincial government has $1 million to the Red Cross, right, and is standing ready to help refugees, not only from Ukraine but other places as well. But we've committed that, and really, once we hear more from the federal government, you'll all hear about it.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before we went on, that it's tragic and horrific what's going on in the Ukraine right now, but there are other spots that we can't take our eye off as well that need support, assistance.
May I add an additional comment too?
Sure.
I know my colleague and I, we went to a few of the rallies and a few of the fundraisers. I think one thing I do want to share this message to remind everybody, this is really a war between Putin and his government versus the sovereign Ukraine. And we really should not and avoid taking our anger out just because somebody's a Russian Canadian.
Absolutely.
We need to fight against hate. Hate in any form of discrimination is not healthy. And that's one thing I'm so glad that our government, we see that it's happening, and we're supportive of our community to ensure that as we support Ukrainian Canadians and we support people from Ukraine fleeing from violence, we also remind everybody we're here as Canadians supporting one another. Let us focus on the Russian Putin government, who we're going to exercise our sanction, support Ukrainian Canadian, and really support a peace-loving Russian Canadian, and of course any other global citizens who also embrace peace as well. I just want to make sure that message is out there to you, if you don't mind.
Well said. We're here talking, so that's all good. This is kind of the point where I say final thoughts as we wrap things up, and Aman, start with you.
Oh, well, thank you for having us. It's always great to have these sort of conversations, and we look forward to more of them.
Excellent. Kelly?
Oh, absolutely. I enjoy being able to have these conversations and talk about issues that matter to people in Richmond. And our offices are always open, and we're very easy to find on Google. So if anybody needs anything, please do look us up.
Yeah, I was going to say that websites obviously are a requirement for what you do, that it is, even for somebody who may not be tech savvy, it's easy to track you guys down if they need to talk to somebody. So Henry, you got the last word in the last word category.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I think, one, I do want to appreciate this kind of conversations, because just as I mentioned in my last comment too, is a lot of people look at elected official with a title, but now realize we're all human beings behind it. Be able to talk about family, be able to talk about challenges, people talking about our work schedule sometimes, or even the fact that I'm pretty sure the same thing as my colleagues. There are times we can go for like 57 days in a row nonstop, day after day after day, from event to event to event, or meeting to meeting to meeting. And we are all here to support our community, and we understand whom we help are also human too. So we're trying our best to break away a lot of labels and really understand our constituents when they come to approach us. We want to do our best to accept people who you are and really hear you out. We might not solve our constituents' concerns or challenges, but we definitely do our best to address and find out all the detail and information to support as far as we can. So we welcome anyone. And if you walk into one, if you call or email any of our office that's talk about wrong issue, don't worry about it. We'll help you find the right resources.
Let's just quickly go around the table, everybody. Give websites, Kelly.
kellygreene.ca, and my email is kelly.greene.mla@leg.bc.ca.
Okay.
I apologize.
That's okay.
So my email is henry.yao.mla@leg.bc.ca. My phone number is 604-775-0891. I do want to say my website is Henry Yao ML. My website is here. I apologize. I'll take that back.
We're going to put we'll finish up with you.
So yeah, email is the best way.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
you can get your concerns out, and we all have the same sort of emails. Our first name, last name, ML.MLA. So aman.singh.mla@leg.bc.ca. So leg.bc.ca. And my office is right around the corner on Bridgeport, right across from Starbucks.
Okay.
So very easy to 12560 Bridgeport. So if you
Okay.
need to,
I think it
come on
would
by.
only be fair of us to put we'll put banners up for everybody's websites and everything like that, make it easier for our viewers. Guys, thank you. I know you're really busy. When you're here, when you're over there, I appreciate you stopping in to the Richmond Sentinel offices to talk to us and to the viewers and fill them in. We'll hopefully do this again by summertime, see where things are at then. Thank you all.
Sounds
Thank
great.
you. Hey, it's Aman Singh, Kelly Greene, Henry Yao, all first-time MLAs elected in 2020. They represent your ridings here in Richmond, and they've been part of this video segment for the Richmond Sentinel. Thanks to our crew who set up a great shop today. I'm Jim Gordon. We'll see you next time.